Welcome to Theoretical Nonsense, the Big Bang Theory watch-along podcast. On today's episode, we're going to be talking the future of human and robot relations, flip-flop fatalities, the average number of sexual partners, and the craziest masturbation stories that resulted in hospitalization. Let's go! Welcome to Theoretical Nonsense, the Big Bang Theory watch-along podcast. No PhD required.
We're the podcast that recaps all the episodes of The Big Bang Theory. No spoilers.
So hop into your favorite spot.
Make yourself a grasshopper.
And enjoy the ride. Hello there, Ryan.
Hello, Rob.
We have made it to season 4.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Finally.
We're here.
we're working our way.
Yep. What'd you think of it? What'd you think of episode 1?
Strong start. Hilarious episode. Not really getting into the romantics of Penny and Leonard. Don't need that. We have a new romance on our hands, and just some funny outtakes with the science guys. So
Howard and the robot hand.
Howard and the robot hand.
Best new relationship.
Yep.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I think I watched it about 5 times. I like that they left that cliffhanger with Amy, and I'm glad that they just kind of dove into it.
Mm-hmm. Straight into it, which I think is funny. We'll get into it, but Penny was the last one to know, and I think that's hilarious.
I know. It's like they really didn't answer that. It's like I've been talking to you for like the last 4 months and asking you what's new, and you didn't say anything. Yeah,
so apparently nothing really happened over summer break for them, the break, but Penny still didn't know.
Yep. Well, they probably didn't see her very, very often with the breakup and everything. I'm sure they were giving each other space.
And Leonard being kind of irritated with the sex booty call that night, so... Yeah,
I ain't telling you some juicy goss.
You figure it out on your own. You don't want this, you don't get the gossip.
And when she didn't figure it out, I guess I'll just tell you. Well, all right. A little bit of housekeeping before we get started. Don't forget to email us at theoreticalnonsensepod@gmail.com. Leave us a review on Apple and Spotify, and follow us on Instagram and TikTok at theoreticalnonsensepod. So, shall we just dive in?
I was going to say that. I noticed I think we have a couple new stars, not actual written reviews, but it looks like we're up to like 35 reviews, so it's going up a little bit. I'm going to take it, and it's not, our numbers aren't going down, so I like that.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you to all of our reviewers. But if you actually write something nice to us and give us a 5 stars, we will read it. Yeah. Or, like I said, email us and we'll read your email.
If it's mean, we'll probably ignore it and pretend it like it doesn't exist.
And then I'll cry into a candy bar.
I was going to say, I'll cry myself to sleep later.
But we will ignore it.
And it's not going to hurt us at all until we cry.
Until we end the call and we cry. I'm going to call Ryan and just say, why?
Why? I don't know, Rob. I don't know. The world is so painful.
Well, I'm glad it's going up. I actually haven't looked at it in a really long time, so I'm happy about that. So thank you, everyone.
Yeah. All right, so diving into season 4, episode 1.
Yeah, let's just go for it.
Okay. The Robotic Manipulation. This aired September 23rd, 2010. Directed by Mark Sandrowski. Chuck Lorre, Bill Prady, and Stephen Molero were the writers. I made that sound weird, but so it's a crew that we know and love, so I'm not surprised it's a good one. Good episode. Starts off in the apartment. Everybody is eating, and a robotic arm is unpacking their dinner. Raj cheers and claps and says it only took 28 minutes to program the arm to do this. And, I feel like that's fair as long as it didn't hurt anybody. I always feel like the arm could, backslap them by accident. So Sheldon says they need to be cautious because today it's a food retrieval bot. Tomorrow it travels back in time and tries to kill Sarah Connor. And so I get my first IQ point. I wanted to look into this a little bit because there's some recent events that made me curious about current standards or safety protocols about robots and AI, and if there's anything in place to help prevent a Sarah Connor type incident, Skynet. And I would say at the time, this is 2010, as far as I know, there weren't any strong safety protocols in terms of AI, but right now, kind of what's got me on the fence is Elon Musk just held a robot, party. I believe it was called, We Robot?
Westworld?
And it was called Westworld. A bunch of people went there to have fun.
Yeah.
It was just robots marching around and serving drinks and stuff. And, I heard his prototypes and, what concept robots. So they might have been controlled, but it was concept stuff. So I was curious of where things are going. And the first place I looked or got when I was Googling was U.S. Department of Labor took me to their robotics section. And apparently with OSHA, there are no current standards in the robotics industry for safety. That's the way I understood it. I believe the exact wording is there are currently no specific OSHA standards for robotics industry. However, there are guidelines in different industry giants, I guess, and organizations have standards, but again, OSHA is not really involved. But apparently, I looked at two other websites, automate.org and A3 Robotics. Apparently, there are safety protocols that the industry has. It's just not necessarily governed by OSHA. And most of these safety protocols have to do with keeping your distance from robots, but that kind of led me to believe that they're talking about actual machinery robots, not necessarily AI robots that we would think of Terminator, that although technically just the arm swinging around would count as robotics. And technically there are, in fact, the protocol that I saw saying most likely the standard is called ANSI RIA R15.05 2012. That's basically just the guideline number and name. Then I went to a couple different websites and I found robotics.org and ishn.com having more discussion of the extensive details of these guidelines. And again, what I could break down is that everything is about keeping your distance from the robots, not necessarily having anything involved to keep us safe if they uprise and try to kill us all. So I started looking into the Elon Musk We Robot event, as it's called. And according to cybernews.com, Elon Musk talked about the safety of AI robots. And the more he talks, the more I don't like the guy. He seems egotistical and I don't know. Crapwad, is that a word? Crapwad. But anyways, he claims no other robots company is really implementing safety standards for robots. He claims that all the other robots and AI are making woke and nihilistic AI robotic development. And his company, XAI, is actually working on AI robotics that will love humanity and keep them safe. So he claims that right now there aren't really any standards and the robots are aiming towards having uprisings and stuff. So that, I don't know, he trusts Musk on that, saying he's the only one who can save us from the robots. That seems weird.
I've learned to never trust anything he says.
Right, that's kind of what, the more he talks, the more I don't trust them. I used to. Anyways, I went on to Homeland Security, And this is where I probably found the heart of my information because it took me to some other websites. And Homeland Security actually is working on initial guidelines for keeping us safe from AI, but not necessarily the standards for AI to keep us safe from robotic arms turning on us and choking their owners. Choking their owner throats. There's other parts of owners that can choke, I guess. But on April 29th, 2024, so this year, they started a guideline of concentrating on three parts: attacking using AI, attacks targeting AI, and failures in AI design and implementation. So I think this kind of goes with the AI design and implementation, AI acting up or attacking us. It's also weird because they said that they're working on adversarial AI use and combating AI related intellectual property theft, which was weird to me because technically generative AI is based on intellectual theft. Like, that's come to be known that generative AI is based on large language models. And if anybody doesn't know, that's basically the companies have stolen a lot of information, millions, I don't know, millions of terabytes, a lot of information in books that they didn't have permissions to use and use it to train their AI. So that basically they have intellectual property theft to make AI, and yet AI intellectual theft is going to be protected. So some weird stuff. And if you don't know, there are some lawsuits in the works that could, like, at the most extreme, they could like shut down AI as we know it and have to start from the ground up redeveloping it. I doubt that's going to happen, but it's some interesting stuff on how large language models work. So this website, Homeland Security, took me to a couple different places. It took me to the Office of Science Technology, which is establishing the AI Safety and Security Advisory Board, the AISSB, to provide guidance and safety. And I looked through it, and it really seemed like they're kind of in the initial stages, drafting stuff, trying to make stuff work, but AI is developing so quickly. They're really working as fast as they can to keep up. Then I went to the National Institute of Standards and Technology, which is, they seem to be the heart. If I was going to look into, with everything I just said, if I was looking into like the guidance and safety of AI creation and usage, they're probably the ones who seem to be making the most progress. They are working on a blueprint for an AI Bill of Rights. So basically, when AI becomes sentient, my understanding, they will have a Bill of Rights prepared for how do we treat them as equals. And I looked over it again. It's really like in the initial drafting, and it's not agreed on upon at all. But it's out there and it's being developed. They also have an AI risk management framework, which is called the Artificial Intelligent Risk Management Framework, or AI RMF 1.0. So it's like also like in its very first draft, 1.0. And in this, I looked over it. It's basically like a booklet, and I didn't read the whole thing because I didn't want to read 60 pages of stuff I didn't really understand. But what I took from it is that they are defining a lot of the terms with AI. And so if you are questioning like some AI term, like it's probably going to have it in there to help explain, I don't know, destructive AI, problematic AI. They're trying to clarify all these terms so that we can understand what we're even working with. It also tries to establish AI trustworthiness through specific descriptions and characteristics, basically saying, how can we know if AI is trustworthy? How can we know if it's being used effectively or morally, ethically, I guess? How do we know when it's causing problems and how it's causing problems? How do we define AI problems as opposed to not just doing something we don't want it to? That's my understanding. And I would say the quote that really got to me as what's called the AI RMF core is that it provides outcomes and actions that enable dialogue, understanding, and activities to manage AI risks and responsibly develop trustworthy AI systems. And this is based around 4 characteristics: governing, mapping, measuring, and I think I miswrote the last one. I have maging. Just a sec. I still have it open because I kind of want to look over more of it, but it is long and extensive. There we go. What is it? Managing. Okay. So governing, mapping, measuring, and managing, and the pamphlet actually has a really cool chart that I don't understand at all, but it's a circle and there's little pictures. But they're trying to establish certain guidelines, and again, this seems really, really new. If anybody wants to take a look at it and explain it to me, I would be happy to listen. Again, it's the AIRMF 1.0 by the National Institute of Standards and Technology. It's some pretty cool stuff, and I guess the government and the industry are trying to take steps to keep the robotic arm from turning on its owners and killing people. So hopefully we have some standards. But in 2010, not at all. If that arm did become sentient, they were all doomed.
Most definitely.
Right? So that was my IQ point. I wish I could explain it more, but I didn't have time to read 60 pages of definitions and
Yeah,
intellectual information.
that's really interesting and really cool that they're being very preemptive about this. They're basically just accepting like this is gonna happen.
It's going to happen. Yeah, if we want it to or
But,
not. And
So the Bill of Rights is how humans are supposed to be treating the AI, the sentient being.
it was my understanding that was part of it, but I think it could go both ways. How we're treated by AI, how our
And how
rights
they-
are. Yeah.
And and reverse how the robots are supposed to treat us. It got me wondering how much are they going to draw into Asimov's three laws of robotics.
I was thinking that too. I'm like, Asimov's laws were based on fiction, but they kind of serve as a guideline, and I didn't see anything referencing him, but I feel like that's probably going to be a pretty strong influence on how reality, I guess, our world comes to handle AI sentience. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's kind of scary, but cool.
it's scary and cool, and kind of like the more I think about AI, every time I think about AI, I just get kind of irritated because it's like they're supposed like why are they like we're aiming our AI into doing the things that we don't technically want it to do. It's like like why is it creating art? Why is it writing books? Why is it writing music and painting things? It should be cleaning my house.
Right? Like, okay, what can we do with this? Let's make sure it takes away all the creative jobs and people still have to do their own goddamn cleaning.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to mow my yard anymore, but instead I just don't have a job and I have to mow.
I want AI to take care of the things that I don't want to, so I can go out and be creative.
Yeah.
It's what are we thinking, guys?
We messed up. Can we start over? Back to the drawing board. Oh, man.
Maybe we do need to start from scratch.
My understanding is, this is getting into some economics and classism discussion, but it's the notion that AI is aiming to not make creativity worthless, but to devalue it. And that way, the non-creative, the elite, the rich won't have to pay for creative individuals anymore. And we see this in Hollywood where they directors, production companies devalue like parts of the creative process. They just don't give a shit, and they want to undervalue and they want to underpay. So it's like the screenwriters, they often get fucked over. I've heard the same thing with the graphic designers, often get screwed over, and it's because of production companies or even video game companies too, that the way they treat their employees, because in their thought process, the creativity doesn't fucking matter. That they just want a video game, they want to make money, and if they can have AI making the video game and they're still making money, fuck their employees. And they do mistreat their employees. They overwork their employees quite frequently. They fire their employees, let them go. What was the other thing? Oh, in fact, with video games, I forget who said it, but there's this infamous quote of some higher up in video game industry saying that plot and story in video games is basically like stories in porn. Nobody gives a shit about it. And I'm like,
yes and no. I do think a lot of like the best TV shows these days are based off video games.
I think so. And I think that's really undermining the intellectual ability or cravings video game players have. And I would say there are a lot of video games that stories don't matter. I mean, Tetris doesn't need a freaking story.
The blocks are trying to find each other and make
They
catcher. That's the
love each
story.
other.
It's beautiful. And then they disappear
And then they disappear because that's life
into
and
nothing.
death.
Yeah. It's a giant metaphor for death. Hello? Nobody else see that?
It's very philosophical. It changed my life. But yeah, video games. I mean, can you imagine any of the big video games like Fallout? Like you said, that's a movie or a TV show now without a story. Like, I feel like it's not millions, but hundreds of stories all wrapped up together. The Elder Scrolls series, like, I feel like without a story, that would be so boring. I guess Super Mario, that's an example that has a story, but it's not a huge story. It's not a complex story, but it still has a story. And I feel like saying people don't need stories that's bullshit.
I think it depends on the game, and I do feel I can't speak for everyone, but I would imagine a lot of gamers out there don't necessarily care.
We
Let's take a
play.
poll. Do you play video games? Do you care about storyline? Shoot us a message.
Let us know. What's your favorite video game story? Which ones did you hate? Did it matter?
Did you even know video games had a story?
Wait, video games can have stories?
Is that the thing I fast forward through?
I just remember when we played Destiny together, like, I have no idea what story that was. It's like, bad things are coming to kill us. Let's kill the bad things.
I think that's an example of the writers not caring, though.
Yeah. And I guess it worked, but I was... that's not a life-changing game for me, you know? It was fun, but I feel like...
They lost fun so fast, though, after every update. Every update made it worse and worse.
A little by little, they sucked the fun away.
Well, I would argue that Diablo is an example of like where there is storyline where some people could follow it and could care. But honestly, I read it, I listened to it, enjoyed the cutscenes and stuff like that. But it's like, I still don't know what's going on. Still don't really care. I just gotta level up, race to 99.
Get to 99 and kill the other people. Kill the bad things up. You know, I was thinking, but like if the Final Fantasies, I feel like the thing that makes the Final Fantasies that made me want to continue playing them was the stories. That those were like 50, 60-hour games, and I wanted to know what was going on, why things were happening, what would happen. I cared about, Final Fantasy VII, the epic death scene in that, I think impacted a whole generation of video game players because of the story. And if it was straight like get from point A to point B to point C, I don't think it would be as powerful or influential. But let us know what you think. I'm curious. Do stories matter in video games? Or porn? I like my porn. Arguably, reading romance. I would say that romance is basically, not all romance, but a lot of it is basically porn in literary form, and the reason it works is because it's a story and it hides the porn in it. But every now and then I get a recommendation. I'm like, this book is about a gangbang. Like, this is a bunch of dudes going to town, and they're like, no, it's a good book. For example, Ice Planet Barbarians. Have you heard of it?
Sounds classy. Go on.
It's so classy. There's like 20 books in the series. It's making millions of dollars. I'd say it probably will get a movie, but the movie, it's basically Avatar. If the avatars had vibrating penises, and all they did was have sex with women, human women. It's like, that is the story.
I'm pretty sure that is what Avatar is about.
So it's basically the same thing. Some copyright infringement there, but it is a hell of a book.
Did AI write that?
No, it didn't. It started off as fan fiction. I don't know if AI can get that hot and steamy. I tell you what.
Of course it's fan fiction. Good Lord.
I'm not criticizing if you like it. I'm just saying that I feel like romance is porn with story, and it's very popular because of that. Okay, should we continue?
23 minutes into this episode, and we are still on the first scene.
And that's not even our last conversation about sex. We're gonna get back to sex later. I have some. What did she call that? Factoid. Interesting factoids later. All right, so Penny enters and asks about the robotic arm. And apparently it's meant for repairs on the space station, and Howard has been working with it. She asks for soy sauce, and Howard programs it, and it takes several minutes for him to type in everything just for it to pick up a soy sauce packet and give it to her. Sheldon mentions robots will make her job obsolete, which is like we were talking about. Robots aren't going for waiting staff; they're going for the creative people, right? Screenwriters, artists, probably musicians.
Well, actually, they are. AI really is about to take over the fast food industry, and a lot of it, because like if you really, I was looking up some articles. This isn't an IQ point because I just kind of looked it up for my own knowledge and everything like that. But in the world of robotics and AI, they really are targeting a lot of fast food. Technically, they classify those kiosks where you walk up to like McDonald's or something like that and you just enter in your order because it removes labor out, and it's technically a robot that's taking your order. And then McDonald's actually is piloting several locations that are 100% robotics.
I hate those things so much.
Yeah, I mean, you basically place the order at a kiosk, or you just say it into the speaker. They'll acknowledge it, and they'll know how to take the order and everything like that. And then robots are actually building it, because most of the McDonald's stuff is like not pre-made, but like all the vegetables are pre-cut and everything like that.
Yeah.
The patties are just like already in the right shape, so all they have to do is cook it. So if they already have a robot to just like fire it off and then just build it, and there you go. So yeah, Sheldon's right. They are gunning for Penny's job.
I went to a Shake Shack the other day while I was in Portland, and they had kiosks, and I don't use those anymore because the last time I was at the same exact location, I tried to use it, and I ordered 2 hamburgers and a beer, and it said my order was like $70-$80. I'm like, that's not right. So I like reprogrammed, and it was right, but then it had an error and said, cannot order your beer. And I think what happened was the menu wasn't updated with the actual beers they had. And so it was like glitching the system. And the time it took me, there were 4 of them, and I should have known because all of them were empty, and there was one person in line at the register. And I'm like, I could just go to the register. I want to try the computer out, see what happens. Complete epic shit show. Once I finally gave up on it, I turned, and there were like 10 people in line that I had to wait through. And so I'm like, okay, I've learned my lesson. If the register is empty, I'm just going to go to the fucking register because I don't want to waste my time again. And so I went up there this time, and the guy looks at me and is like, can't you use the computer? I'm like, I'm not falling for that again. Nice try, you lucky son of a bitch.
Wait, so the moment you got to the line, they're like, go to the kiosk?
Yeah, he asked me, he's like, why aren't you using the kiosk? I'm like, because you're here and I want to order
because
beer.
I'm keeping you employed, motherfucker.
Yeah, I'm giving you a job. Oh, man, I was a little upset, but I'm like, man.
Well, so the robot knew that you drink, that you already had enough.
The
robot had to cut you off.
You've
had enough. No more beer for you.
Weird, we didn't even program it to say that. It just smells you.
You reek of booze.
And despair.
You smell like sadness. Get out of here.
Leave the establishment. So, okay. Actually, there is a restaurant by us. It's called Swish Swish. And when I was in Japan, I believe these places were called Shabu Shabu. But it's like a hot pot where they have like your boiling soup, and you like dip your meat in and cook your stuff in your boiling soup when you get it. And they have, I think they just have one, but they do have a robot. Like you order stuff and the waiter comes and picks it up and gets it ready, but the robot like will bring it out to you. And it says like, please take your stuff. And like you take it and it's supposed to like turn around and leave. but sometimes like you take it and it turns and looks at you. It's like, please take your stuff.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's like, I did. Leave me alone. Let me eat in peace.
Definitely still in the initial stages of robotics.
I'm just glad it makes it to my table like in one piece. That's a win there. So, please take your stuff. I did. Okay, so moving onward, they have a little conversation. Penny ends up asking if the robot will be able to spit on Sheldon's hamburger. And then he asks why she's in their apartment. Didn't Leonard break up with her? I like that comeback. I think he meant it like not as an attack, like he meant it very realistically, but I thought it was funny. Like, did you break up with her? So the robot gives sauce to Penny, and Sheldon says that it's not that impressive because it's really just a step above the Country Bear Jamboree. And I'm going to give myself 1 point for being like Sheldon here, because that was kind of what I was thinking, that they're all very impressed. I'm thinking that's really not that much different than Five Nights at Freddy's. I guess those were possessed children and machines, but you know what I mean. Dancing bears, the robot arm.
I mean, it's a little bit. Well, yeah. I'm trying to justify this right now. And I'm having trouble, so maybe it isn't that impressive, but it kind of is.
It's cool. I would love to play with it.
I think it's impressive because I actually did a robotics class in high school where the first year was like kind of more physics based, where you're like building like you're building like a battle bot and everything like that, or you're building like a mousetrap car and trying to like use the pulley system to see how far it could go. But then in level 2, you actually got one of those dogs, those robotic dogs, the Ibo. I don't know if you remember. It was like really big in like the early 2000s. Like they're everywhere. They're kind of stupid, but
they're so fun.
But part 2 or year 2 of robotics was programming it. So like pulling out the manual, like plugging it into a computer, and then you needed to program it to do like, okay, the task is to walk 10 steps forward, do like 3 steps to the left, and then do a backflip or something like that. Like that's just what we had to do. And I remember like, dang, this is super hard.
To cut you off when you're drinking too much.
Yeah.
A little dog comes up and starts barking.
Yeah.
No more, Ruff.
Just slaps me. Get out. You got enough. Woof.
Woof. Woof.
So I guess that's more programming, if anything, but that's challenging for me.
I think it's fun. I like seeing if the programming goes through. I programmed in C++ and BASIC a little bit, and just like seeing like, oh, did I program it, or is everything going to crash horribly? But at the end of the day, I'm like, having a robotic arm isn't that impressive. Actually, there was one art piece that I did think was impressive. It's basically a giant robotic arm, and it's got like a broom or something on it, and it has to broom or mop its oil back into itself, or if it fails to do so, it dies. And so it constantly goes in a circle, mopping up all of its oil into itself. Have you seen that?
I have, and that just seems cruel.
Right? It's so cruel, but like that actually moves me, and I'm like, okay, that is fascinating because it's on this like death loop.
Yeah.
Like that's horrible. Why would we make that? But fascinating.
Yeah. When the robot uprising happens, they're gonna see that and they're gonna hate humanity. That's what's gonna set them off.
It's like when somebody's like, "Why are you doing this to me?" They just hold up a picture of that the robot dying. I'm so
you created this.
you did it to yourself. Alright, so it is kind of cool. I just it's fun, and even Sheldon thinks it's fun because he's enjoying it, and he was part of the BattleBots too when they were making the BattleBots, so it's not like he thinks they're dumb. It's just it's not huge. Howard,
he just can't let anybody give Howard a compliment. That's
That
really what it
too.
comes down to.
Yeah, now that you mention, that's probably a big part.
He's just an engineer. It's not that impressive.
Howard types and the robot gives Sheldon the peace sign. Apparently, it's not supposed to be the peace sign.
Nope.
Type thing, right? So we have the intro, and we are back at the apartment, and apparently NASA thinks the arm is in a secure locker. And I love this line where Howard says, you just have to carry it out like you own it. So he's borrowing it to test it out, but it's not his. Sheldon gets a text from Amy, and it's a pun that ends with not liking glycal ether. And ether is supposed to be ether. And he laughs, but everybody looks at him like, goddamn. Penny is surprised to hear Sheldon has a girlfriend, and this is where it comes up. It's been 4 months, and Leonard has been saying nothing's new. Sheldon says she's not his actual girlfriend. Howard and Raj say that they have a couple's name, Shamey. I love that too, Shamey. Sheldon casually mentions that they have been talking about having a kid, and this makes Penny spit up. And the robot arm then generously hands her a napkin, which I like. It takes him like 10 minutes to program the soy sauce, but the napkin's like right there, right in time.
Yeah, so I noticed that too. I clocked that too.
It was funny though. I liked it. Maybe it's just getting smarter. It's learning. Like, okay, just do what I did with the soy sauce. Sheldon explains their kid could be an overlord, so that's why he wants to have a kid, not because he's in love, because they're going to have a super genius kid. Howard says future people will judge them for not killing Sheldon right now. Penny asks if Sheldon is going to have sex or how he's going to have sex since he doesn't like touching other people, and this becomes a bigger discussion of sex, and it becomes clear that he's going to have the kid clinically. And he looks at Penny and says, is your womb available for rent? So apparently he's looking for a surrogate mother. But that would be interesting. So Penny suggests maybe try dating Amy before having a kid. And he says it's impossible. She's not my girlfriend. But Penny brings up the idea that maybe you should get to know the mother of your child beforehand, before you have the kid. And Sheldon realizes that he's not going to achieve that level of intimacy through text, even though phone care providers have been telling him you could. So, yeah. Anyways, he's going to have to go out on a date. Next scene, Penny's apartment. Sheldon's knocking. And Penny opens the door, and he mentions that it's a waste of time for him to continue knocking because she waits for him to finish knocking. And I didn't really get that joke, but like I understand that she's just saying like, why bother doing it? It's just the old battle about how he knocks too much, I guess, or yeah, the 3 knocks. Yeah. Sheldon asks for a ride for his date with Amy. They're going on a date, and she tells him to ask Leonard. And Leonard apparently told him to go ask Penny because it's her cockamamie idea. And I get a point for being like Leonard here because Sheldon doesn't even feel okay using cockamamie. And I feel like I'm constantly holding myself back from using profanity. So,
God, this is you holding back?
This is me holding back, I tell you what. God damn it. But... yeah, in fact, I was kind of surprised that Sheldon had a problem even saying cockamamie, but yeah, whatever. Sheldon says...
yeah, I guess he does have a much more sophisticated vocabulary.
A cleaner mouth. Sophisticated. That's it. Sheldon says the date is right now, and Penny complains she might have had other plans. But she doesn't, so she ends up driving him.
So we learn that Penny isn't quick on her feet.
Yes, and we learn that later. So a couple other things come up that if she was a little bit quicker with thinking, she might have been able to avoid this whole thing. We're at Howard's place, and the machine arm is giving him a back rub. I love this scene. It's so short, but it's like, it's just like a real hand.
Oh my god, the look on his face was so good.
he just kind of turns and looks at it, and you can tell what he's thinking.
Oh yeah.
It's just like a real hand.
Real hand.
So he has plans for that robot. We are now in Penny's car, and Sheldon thanks Penny, but says he wishes she wasn't wearing flip-flops, and he doesn't want to be a flip-flop fatality. So I get my second IQ point here, because I wanted to look into the legalities of driving with flip-flops. It's not super huge, but I have some side info that I think makes it fair. So I grew up learning, I've driven in flip-flops, but I grew up learning that it's illegal to drive in flip-flops. That's total bullshit. B-shit? It could be B-shit too, I don't know. Bullshit, there we go.
The old BS.
The old BS. It's not illegal to drive barefoot or in flip-flops, and this is according to Direct Auto Insurance. And their whole thing is saying what's legal and illegal, and their big thing was it's illegal to drive without insurance in most states, so you need auto insurance, but they do talk about everything a little bit. It says that many states advise not driving barefoot or in flip-flops, but it's not illegal. That there is a question of whether or not you can have control of the pedals if you're barefoot or in flip-flops, because there's not as much traction. There's also questions of the flip-flops coming off and causing a potential hazard, especially if the flip-flops get stuck under the brake or under some of the pedals or push the pedal down in some way, shape, or form. Other things that this website says is that in some states it's illegal to wear headphones, and some it's not. Some that's legal include Alabama, Tennessee, Arkansas, North Carolina, South Carolina, Texas, and Mississippi. Some states where it's illegal include Ohio, Florida, Georgia, and Virginia. There's other states, but those are one of the ones that it listed specifically. So you have to know your state if you're going to wear headphones, I suppose. Or just don't do it and you're safe.
Just don't do it.
Technically, it's not illegal to drive without a shirt, regardless of gender. So if you want to go like free flowing with your whatever you got hanging out, that's legal. However, there's a double edge to the sword. It could be illegal because you could get cited for public indecency or indecent exposure. And so it's not illegal to drive naked. It's illegal for people to look in your window and see that you're naked. That's where the problem comes in. It's also not illegal to drive with your interior lights on. If a kid turns on the light, that's perfectly legal, even though parents have often been known to say it's illegal. It's just, it could be dangerous because of the reflections or the glare it creates in some of the mirrors. Excuse me. And I suppose that technically if you are distracted or if there is some issue with your driving ability, you could be cited for reckless driving due to that distraction, but technically those in themselves are not reasons to be pulled over. Then I went to findlaw.com, a legal blog by Christopher Koval. And this kind of took me all over the place because I think that Direct Auto Insurance took me to this blog, and the blog took me to dailymail.co.uk that cited a 2013 study that said that around 33% of motorists have worn flip-flops while driving. And of those 33%, 10% of them have lost their flip-flop and gotten stuck behind a pedal while driving. And so that's like 3% of drivers, I guess. 3.3% of drivers have had issues with their shoe wear, causing them to almost crash to some degree, or lose control or have dangerous driving. It also says that flip-flop drivers, according to the study, were 0.13 seconds slower at applying brakes than normal footwear drivers, which doesn't seem like a lot, but apparently that could be a 30-foot difference in stopping if you're going 60 miles per hour. And 30 feet is kind of a lot if somebody comes to an abrupt stop. If you haven't heard, I just drove by this. I didn't see it. I think it must have happened at a different time, but there was like a 45-car pileup on I-5, I think it was over the weekend. Did you hear about that? Look it up.
No.
It's just like a line of cars all smashed up. And it's my understanding that like a wave of rain basically came and caused like a poor driving conditions and visuals. My thought is people on I-5 like to go like 80 to 90 miles per hour in 60 mile per hour zones, and they hate using turn signals. They love to weave through traffic. I've seen people go on the shoulder to get around people. It's chaos. And I'm like,
I remember it was really bad. Nobody respects the 4-second rule either.
Yeah, oh yeah, 4-second rule is basically if you're doing that, if you are abiding by safety, you are a hazard to the road because nobody else is, right? Yeah. So yeah, 30 feet could have probably saved some of them at least, although I'm sure some of it was like one car crashing and pushing another and forward. But it was semi-trucks too, like turned over and stuff. So it was extreme. So 30 feet, I would say, at times that could make or break you. It's not advised to use flip-flops. Although I'm not sure if there's all that many flip-flop fatalities, it is an issue that you want to avoid. So that's
what I looked into.
You did? What part?
The flip-flop fatality. That's because I wanted to know what the actual statistic was, because he made it seem like it was like a high number.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to just be another number, and it happens so often. But the
flip-flops take out more people than sharks.
Right. Well, the first thing that I found is that there was actually a band named Flip Flop Fatality.
Really?
Yeah, their stuff's on YouTube. I didn't actually look. I've listened to a couple of their songs, and it's like, it's not my thing. I'm not going to bash them, but not for me. But if you want to check them out, they're on YouTube. And I could not find an actual statistics I couldn't find an actual statistic of cause deaths due to flip-flops. Because like I think whenever there's like a car accident or something like that, they must like group it with something else. It's kind of like how you said, like they classified as like reckless driving or something like that. Like that's kind of what it just kind of gets lumped into. So actual deaths caused by flip-flops I cannot find. When I did do a quick Google search, I couldn't find it. It wouldn't direct me to the actual website. Like the website didn't work, but like how like on Google how it has like that little snippet below the link where it kind of starts like the article.
The summary.
Yeah, a little summary. So I found something that said that like the US does not have an official statistic, but in the UK there's an annual 200,000 reported injuries related to flip-flops. But that's just injuries. It's not necessarily a fatality.
Fatalities, yeah.
And like I said, the link didn't work, so I don't know if I could trust that statistic. So it's like, well, I don't know if I could trust this one now. And then I found a website, Michigan Now. It's a journal out of Michigan State. A study showed that in 2013, that 7% of drivers polled, or 7% of the drivers polled in this survey blamed flimsy sandals for a crash or nearly causing a crash. But again, it didn't really say how many people were in the poll, so it's not the best statistic. And then I found a law site, Shook and Stone Injury Law, and based off what they were saying, it seems like they were classifying all loose shoes as sandals. So like flip-flops is in the same category as like high heels and things like that. And according to them, annually 1.4 million auto accidents occur due to the sandals blocking the pedals. So it is a hazard, but it does not seem to be to lead to a fatality, or if it does, there's no statistic.
Like
you was going to call this a. Oh, sorry, I'll let you go.
Larger chance of a deer running into you and causing a crash, basically, or something.
Maybe.
A deer wearing flip-flops. Would that be a flip-flop fatality?
Created by AI?
AI deer.
But yeah, I was actually going to call this a failed IQ point because I could not, like I said, all the statistics that I found didn't seem the most reliable, and there was really nothing solid on how many flip-flop fatalities there are.
Well, I think if we combine ours, it makes a solid IQ point.
Oh yeah, for sure. We're
Flip
counting
flop fun.
it. The old flippity flop.
Flippity flop flop. Alright, so Penny asks if this is Sheldon's first date. And he says it depends. Would his a dance with his sister at a hoedown count? And she says no. This is his first date. I wonder why his brain goes there first. Like, that was kind of a...
Well, I mean, he was with the girl, even though it was his sister, and they went dancing.
Huh.
So
I guess, man. And, like, I'm sure he's doing stuff, like, gone to a movie with his sister or something before, so, but it's, like, that one specific memory that comes to mind. Although maybe it's the dancing that made it...
Yeah, because I'm sure he wouldn't go to a movie with just his sister. We'll have to watch young Sheldon to find out, but I doubt that he would. He probably went to the movies with everybody. So it's not really a date, but then if he's actually dancing, I don't know.
I don't know. Is the hoedown in the young Sheldon? No, that would be funny.
I guess we'll have to wait and
Watch
see.
and find out. No spoilers. The infamous hoedown. Penny says that she knows more about dating, so he needs to listen to her as she gives him advice. He asks if she knows so much, why does he have a date and she has nothing tonight? Dun dun dun.
Not the best logic, but it was funny.
It was funny.
Because it's a numbers game.
It's a numbers game. And she has the numbers, I tell you what.
Which he will crunch those numbers later.
So I get another point, this time for being like Raj. Where he wonders how and where Aquaman poops. And I can't say I've wondered that, but over the weekend, I went to this like mansion in Portland. It's like up on a hill and it overlooks the whole thing of Portland, and I think it's called the Pittock Mansion. And, you know, I probably wouldn't admit this, but we're talking about poop, so why not? As I went through the bathrooms, I'm looking at, like, the toilets. I'm wondering, how many shits has that toilet seen? In the hundreds of years it's been there, how many people have had, like, the runs, the trots, or, like, thrown up into it? Like, I just wonder. And it's, like, cold porcelain floor. The house itself seemed pretty drafty. I'm like, that would be... I guess it's better than an outhouse, but still, it seemed uncomfortable. But I was wondering that. So I'm like, you know, that I give 1 point for being like Raj, thinking outside the box with poop, I guess. Outside the toilet.
Oh, well, hopefully you kept it in the toilet.
The phone rings, and it's Howard. Howard apparently has the robot hand stuck on something. Dun dun dun. Penny's car. Amy is in the car now, and Penny's trying to make polite conversation. Amy points out the check engine light is on. Penny tries to make a compliment, says Amy smells good. Amy says it's her dandruff shampoo, and immediately asks if Penny is a lesbian. She says no, and Amy says she would have been more flattered had Penny been a lesbian. So, disappointment. Penny tells Sheldon to talk about growing up in Texas. His only response is, it was hell.
I love that.
That's it. It was hell. Penny talks about growing up in Nebraska and having some meth labs around. Sheldon asks how this conversation is better than silence. Penny says she was just trying to think of something. Like, she's trying so hard to help. And Sheldon looks at Amy and says Muggles, right?
Muggles. Harry Potter reference.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of funny how, like, Penny kind of just turned into, like, the parent, like, taking the two kids out on like, a date. Like two young middle schoolers, and they're just, like, awkward around each other. So she's trying to break the ice and everything, and it's just, like, failing.
Horribly. I do like the, how is this better than silence? I don't know. We are at Howard's place, and Raj and Leonard are staring at Howard, who has a blanket covering his privates and the hand of the robot. He claims he slipped and fell on the robot hand, penis first. Howard says that the program is paused, and they can't unpause it because he's loaded the wrong program. If they unpause it, the robot will think it's twisting a screwdriver and continue to twist. And so he doesn't want his hoo-ha twisted off. Raj says maybe they can think of Winnie the Pooh, who got stuck in the honey tree, and that all his friends came up from behind and pulled him out of the honey tree. Howard says he doesn't want anybody pulling. Well, also Leonard says he's not touching any man's honey tree. Howard also doesn't want any saws, and he doesn't want any torches. His mom yells up, perfect timing, and asks if anybody wants cookies and Hawaiian punch. Howard yells not to come up, and she asks if he is ashamed. He says yes, but that's not the point. I love that response. Raj also gets stuck on those cookies and Hawaiian punch, so those will come back up.
Weird combo. Did you have that growing up as a kid? I know it's supposed to be like a little play on how infantile Howard is to his mom, but like cookies and punch?
I don't think I've ever had cookies and punch, but I can say that every single time I had Hawaiian punch at a sleepover, somebody ended up throwing up.
Oh.
So I don't think it was ever me, but every single time I had it at a sleepover, and I can think of like at least 4 occasions where we had it, and it was never the same person, so it wasn't like somebody had an allergy. It was just kind of like a fucking Russian roulette of Hawaiian punch. It was going to hit bad. And I tell you, that comes up very, very red, and it's hard to get out of carpet.
Were you one of them? Be honest. I can cut this out. Except I'm not.
I don't think I was. I really don't. Although, with that said, I remember not being able to eat Wendy's for a while because it came up one time while I was staying with a friend. And I don't think it was a Wendy's. I think I had something else, but I remember associating it with bacon cheeseburgers. And bacon cheeseburgers, like, for 5 to 10 years of my life were just off the table due to that. But I don't think it was
Did you ever
ever the
Frosty
Hawaiian
too?
Punch. No, because I didn't even realize they had Frosties. I think my whole thing avoiding Wendy's made me avoid realizing they had Frosties. And then it was like in late high school that I realized they had Frosties. I'm like, I'll try the hamburgers again. And it's gone good so far. Knock on wood.
Yeah.
Hawaiian Punch, man.
We'll get some Hawaiian punch when you're here.
It's so red. It's so
I got
red.
floors. It's fine.
Yeah, it can be mopped up. It's like, do you ever make jungle juice in college?
What's that? Is that when you just add everything?
Yeah, everything is basically frozen fruit, Hawaiian punch, and vodka.
Oh, wait. No, we did vodka and the juice concentrates.
Oh, it's basically the same thing, whatever you can
Yeah.
afford, right?
Yeah.
I just remember one Halloween we had bobbing for apples and jungle juice.
Oh.
They're like, this game's gonna burn.
Oh.
My Halloween games always come with like a little twist, a little stab.
So it's your idea.
Yeah. I like to torture my party goers.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Saw, but like
I
not
was
as
just
violent.
going to say, it's going to be in the next Saw movie. You want to live through this? Bob for apples in the jungle juice.
You've come to my party. Now do you want to live?
Would you like to play a game?
Would you like to play a game? No, Ryan, no. We told you last
Okay.
year, fuck your games. So, we are at the restaurant, and Penny brings up how big of a night this is. And Sheldon says that
I'm a little shocked that she was even there. I mean, I get why she was there just for comedy, but at the same time, it's like, why didn't she just like do the adult on a middle school date thing, and she sits at a different table, or she sits at the bar?
at the bar, right? That's kind of what I was
Yeah.
thinking too. It was kind of that was kind of, maybe she was trying to get them a discount or something, because were they at the Cheesecake Factory?
It didn't look like it.
Didn't look like it.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I have no idea why she was there.
Yeah. Wait,
And
was it? I didn't even think about that.
It was just a table, and their Cheesecake Factory looks so generic that it's hard to tell.
Let's look it up right now.
A
No, it looks like a fancier restaurant.
little fancier.
Yeah.
Fair. So yeah, I don't know. But Sheldon
But
disagrees with her. Oh, sorry.
oh no, I was gonna say like obviously they put them all together for like the comedy and everything like that. So I know
Yeah.
it's nothing to really nitpick over, but that's what we do here.
That's why we're here. Give us 5 stars.
We will nitpick every episode.
Everything. Anything you
Well,
want us to
that's not
nitpick.
accurate. That doesn't make sense.
Why are they there? I don't know. Sheldon, in fact, speaking of more nitpicking, I was kind of bothered this joke didn't land right with me. He claims that winter solstice is a big night, over 14 hours in Southern California. Amy says that's amusing, but technically, winter solstice isn't a big night, it's a long night in terms of time. A big night would be expansive, as if more of the globe had darkness. I don't know, and it's not necessarily like as we get more darkness, the other part of the globe gets more light. So it's not technically area. It's I'm semantics with the wording. I would say that it's a long night. It's not a big night. Penny says lets it known that it is Sheldon's first date and tells him to discuss. I do like that. Discuss.
Yeah.
And it comes up that Amy's only there to deal with her mom so that she can appease her mom for a year and to use her mom's George Foreman grill. Amy then asks if Penny dates much. And Sheldon starts to laugh a little bit. And now we get into some numbers. And Sheldon says that it's been... He calculates she's been with dating 171 men. He claims since he's seen her in the last 3 years, he's seen her date 17 men. So, assuming she started dating at 15, she mentions that she started dating at 14. So they add the number up to 193 plus or minus 8 men. And, you know, there are some heavy assumptions there, but I think it's kind of funny, and I think that's fair nonetheless.
I think what makes it funny is like we understand that the math is technically wrong because like you said he's making a lot of assumptions, but the funniest part is that Penny starts mentally counting and she actually has to stop and think like, wait, has it really been 193?
She's not denying it like, no, it's not been that. She's more like, oh no, right?
Yeah.
And then Amy asks if she's had sex with all those men. And then they start contemplating, computing how many men she's had sex with. And I would say, as many assumptions are there with the dates, there's even more assumptions with the sexual partners. In fact, so many that I don't think his math adds up. It just he's making leaps in judgment, and I couldn't follow the schematics. But he computes based on awkward men leaving her place in the morning and the number of times she's come home awkwardly in the same clothes. So that's making an assumption that each one of those times is a sexual intercourse. He minuses 21 men before she lost her virginity, and that makes me wonder, how does he know when she lost her virginity?
They seem pretty close. I'm sure he picked it up somehow.
Possibly. That was that seemed interesting. But he qualifies 30.96 sexual partners, rounding up to 31. And Penny says that's not even close and orders another drink. And so I did an IQ point here. I think we've talked about this a little bit before, but I found information that was new to me, so I'm making it a new IQ point. Average number of sexual partners. And I think some of this, again, I've covered before. I couldn't find the IQ point, but some sounded familiar, some was very new. It's going to be hard to tell that the number of sexual partners on average will change throughout the world for numerous reasons, but also any statistics not going to work because you can't ask everybody in a certain region. You have to generalize to some extent. You also have people lying, right? In fact, where was it? Healthline.com said 41.3% of men lie typically to increase their number. It said 32.6% of women often lie to decrease their number. So you get like almost half of men lying increasing their number, and 33% of women decreasing their number or increasing. They're making things up. It's a sensitive topic. They don't want to look stupid. They don't want to look bad. So there's no way to know if somebody's lying.
Well, how did they know? How did they know then?
They're just taking the people, the statistics, the surveyors at their word, I guess. It's kind of weird.
But then how do they know that there's a certain percentage that's lying?
Actually, I put that down too. If they're lying, how do you know they're not lying about lying, right? So that percentage might be a lie as well.
Did you lie?
Yes. Was that a lie? No. What?
But it was.
It's like Labyrinth. One of us is lying and one of us is telling the truth.
Yeah.
The other thing is not everybody counts the same things as sex. And the biggest issue here is penetrative versus non-penetrative sex. That there's been statistics, and I forget which side it was, but it was like boomers, only like, I don't know, 10 to 20% of boomers that they surveyed counted non-penetrative sex as sex. And then Generation X, it was like 30%. And like Generation Z, the current generation, it's like almost half of Zers see non-penetrative sex as sex. So it's like generation after generation considers more things sex. But according to World Population Revised.com, they say that on average, U.S. citizens have 10 or 11 partners over a lifetime. And it varies by state. And it gave 2 examples. In fact, it was kind of weird because these numbers didn't match up with other numbers completely. But they said that one example is Louisiana has 15.7 on average sexual partners, while Utah was around 2.6 sexual partners, at least in some areas, because there's so much religion in Utah, and I don't know what the hell's going on in Louisiana. On average...
It all happens in Mardi Gras.
Marty, that's what it is. All 15 of those partners in Mardi Gras.
Everything spikes during Mardi Gras.
I don't want to have sex with 15 people this year.
Well, if you're going to Mardi Gras, you will. This is our endorsement for Mardi Gras. Have fun, everyone.
Fun. On average, people lose virginity at age of 17. It says different parts of the world our statistics are different. They say that in India, Hong Kong, Vietnam, and China, people typically have fewer than 4 partners. And it says that in Turkey, Iceland, New Zealand, and Australia, people on average have 13 or more partners. So those are the most lucky states. But this is where things get weird because I looked at a couple different averages and different websites. The next one, bespokesurgical.com, said that the U.S. average was actually a little bit more than 10 or 11. It said 14.8 is the average. And coincidentally enough, PA was the lowest. And it said PA's lowest was 8.6 partners. And this is the one that gave me a kicker. And I found this number on other websites, so I don't think they made it up fully, but I have a hard time rationalizing it. It said Washington was the highest, with 50.4.8 partners.
That's the average?
Yeah. And I don't know, again, where they got that number. I saw it on a couple different websites using that same survey statistic. But that was the highest. And then the next one down, I think, was Louisiana at like 15. And so I don't know where they were getting that, but god damn,
yeah,
that was. But again, people lie, so maybe there were just some liars, outskirters in their statistics that really fuck things up. But I can tell you, I live in Washington, and fuck that. I couldn't find any statistics on California.
50. I'm at even 48.
I've only gone to Mardi Gras 3 times, and that's all.
I'm done. Never again.
Couldn't find any statistics on California. Again, Healthline.com, I mentioned that 41.3% of men are known to lie, 32.6% of women lie. And this says that to remember, and what I want to end this IQ point on is their information on what to remember is that there's no real average. It varies by so many factors, by gender, by background, by culture, by religion, so on, that really your number is unique to who you are and your personal community. Remember, number of partners does not define value in you. Having a lot doesn't make you a better person. Having just a few doesn't make you a better person or bad person, good person. And sharing your number or talking about your number with your partner or other people isn't really important. What is important is being honest about your STI status and being safe when having safe sex. So if you're going to have sex, I guess, make sure it's safe and that your partner knows what to expect out of you, and to wear a condom or whatever, have birth control if you want it. So again, the number of partners doesn't really matter, doesn't make or break anybody. I would like to know where that Washington statistic came from, 54.8. That seems really fucking high.
Did you look at a different website though? Did you cross check that with?
I only have the bespokesurgical.com, but I did find like 2 or 3 websites that mention Washington being extra high.
Okay.
So I can track those down and see where they were coming from, but I'm guessing it was one statistic and they're all citing that same research study. That's my guess. But again, it's pretty hard. So you have one study that has inaccurate numbers and everybody starts citing it. I don't know. But yeah. So Amy asks if Penny thinks of herself as a slut. Penny says no. Like by the third no, she's not saying no very confidently, right? And she's also not denying having that many partners. Like we said, she's not denying any of this. She's just like, oh God. Sheldon asks Amy for her number of sexual partners, and I get a point for Sheldon's response because it's basically what I was thinking. Because she asks, would you encounter experiences where she's orgasmed during an experiment through electronic stimulation of her brain? And Sheldon's response is, well, I would think so.
Yeah, they're counting that as a sexual encounter. So does that classify masturbation as a sexual encounter? Because that's kind of what it sounds like all it was.
If somebody's having masturbating you, I would say yes, and I think Sheldon would too. Classifies. Although in this case, I see it as she had electrodes hooked up to her head that were making her orgasm. So it was like...
That's true. Yeah, it's a little different. Yeah.
Electronic stimulation of an
there might be somebody else controlling it.
Well, I would count that. Well, I would think so. Which I remember watching some medical show. I can't remember what it was, but it was talking about doctors who have attempted to help, not perpetuate, but treat sexual deficiencies, sexual issues. And one was doing like a surgery on a woman and something to do with her spinal cord, I think, and hit something. And he's like, are you okay? And she's like, you just gave me an orgasm. And he's like, oh, okay. So it led him down, like, how can we treat nerves to help stimulate? Like, if somebody, like, can't get climax through genitals, what other nerves could help stimulate the orgasm? I can't remember what that was from, but I always remember her face or him explaining her reaction. If you just like, how would it be to be in the middle of surgery and orgasm in front of all these medical people? Like, oh wow. But as Sheldon would say,
they were working on her spine and she was awake.
I think that's what it was, and it was like they had her sedated like from the waist down, so it was like her lower abdomen or area that they're. Again, it's been a long time since I saw that. I can't remember what it was, but I remember that clearly. So Amy says that she's had 128 partners, and they're like, okay, so she's way above Penny, but that number counts a lot of non-romantic, non-traditional type of partners, I would say. We are at the hospital. Howard and Raj and Howard. Raj and Leonard are carrying in the robot arm, while Howard follows in behind them with a blanket and a robot around him and the robot. Leonard asks the nurse for help, and I like her reaction of saying, "What do we have here?" And Howard says he slipped and fell. The nurse says they get that a lot. And I did an IQ point on this because I was curious if that actually happens. You can count this as a failed IQ point if you want to, but I found stuff to talk about and I wanted to share it. It's my understanding that the slip and fell excuse is kind of a stereotype. It's not realistic. You don't actually hear that all that often. And I never, from what I was reading, I read several testimonies and accounts, doctors, patients of shit that's gone wrong. Nobody's ever said, I tried to say it was a slip or fall, or the patient claimed they slipped and fell. Like, that is just a joke excuse to categorize any sexual issue that needs to be diagnosed at the hospital. But I didn't see that it actually gets used. And that was kind of my weird thing is, are there any studies or is there any hard information to say, yeah, I hear this all the time. In fact, I would say most stories have the patients being in so much pain and so much fear that they are pretty honest with the doctors, like straightforward with them, saying this is what happened. A few of them, the doctors or nurses said, we had to ask or double check. They're like, that doesn't make sense. Could you explain? And then they come forward pretty quickly. The only times where it seemed like they are not honest is if there's a family member in the room. And the doctor says, let's have your wife step out and we'll talk to you. And then the facts come forward. Or let's have your mom step out and see what really happened type thing. So yeah, it's been my experience that slip and fell excuse doesn't really get used. That the only time they do actually lie is when family's there because they're embarrassed. So I had a couple of stories that I wanted to share. One was from Women's Health Mag, and two of them were from Women's Health Mag. One was from Fact Medicine, facultyofmedicine.com. And from Women's Health, the two that I had, the first one was a guy went down on his wife with pop rocks in his mouth. One apparently exploded and started giving her genital irritation, in which case she had to go into the hospital and get that treated. I think they gave her anti-swelling medicine to help it go down. The other one from there that I thought caught my attention, I don't know, maybe it just grossed me out, but a guy said that he had been getting oral sex from somebody with braces, and the braces caused an infection, and his dick was infected. And that makes sense because there can be tearage, there can be cutting, and then apparently the food particles and germs that harbor and infest braces can easily get into the wounds in the genital region. So if you have braces, maybe don't give blowjobs, or yeah. The two from facultyofmedicine.com. One, and I wanted to call BS on this. You know, they're saying it's true, so I wanted to share it, but this seems a little fake to me. They say a woman came in straddling a naked man. And again, I don't know logically how they would get them in the door, but apparently they had been doing a lot of drugs and her vagina cramped up. And he got stuck inside her because it cramped up. They gave her muscle relaxers, apparently, and he came loose, and they were promptly arrested on drug charges. And so a few things, I feel like if it became painful, he'd probably get limp pretty quickly, and no matter how hard she was cramped up, like, I don't think it would be hard enough to hold a limp dick inside her. But maybe, the second thing is, if you go to the hospital for drug-related issues, I didn't know you could get arrested for drug charges because you need medical attention.
Yeah, I didn't think so either.
So I thought that might be, there might be more to the story or something that we don't know. That seemed weird to me, but I thought it was one that worth sharing. Another one that caught my attention, a young couple staying at the guy's grandmother's house. The grandmother left and they decided to get it on, and they found a tube of what they thought was lubricant. It was actually nitroglycerin paste, which was being used as a heart drug to help lower blood pressure. And so apparently they used it amply. And and the grandma walks in on them both buck naked on top of each other, and had to call an ambulance. Apparently, they were fine after been given O2 and fluids, but apparently this blood pressure paste caused them both to lose consciousness in the middle of coitus. So that one caught my attention. But again, none of them said we slipped and fell and then passed out or whatever. They were all pretty straightforward from what I was seeing with all the interesting anecdotes, I guess. But yeah, you can count that or not. But I wanted to share.
We're gonna count it because I'm gonna piggyback off this.
Yes, piggyback, baby.
So, I wanted to look into the craziest things, the craziest sex things that resulted in hospitalization.
Ooh.
Because she calls it out on the PA system and basically says, "Hey, I have to call it out because
we don't have a code for
it. There's no code for this." So it just got me wondering. I was like, what other weird things have happened, just like what you did? But I tried to stick to just more masturbatory related stories.
Stealth sex, yeah.
Yeah, just because Howard was, he was basically masturbating. So it's like I tried to stick with that. Some of these stories get a little nasty, so I'll give like a little bit of a trigger warning. I think some of them are going to be nastier than the ones that that you gave. So
that's fair. Mine were a little tame.
So yeah, maybe skip like 5 minutes if you don't if you're not interested in this stuff.
But if you like it, just replay, rewind. No judgment.
Replay this one over and over again. Well, I tried to go on actual like websites and everything like that, and I tried to avoid forums because you never know who's writing in forums and stuff like that. It could easily be fake, like Reddit and Quorum.
And like even mine, like some of them sound kind of fake, like I said, even though they're it's hard, and yeah, the forums are even more so.
Yeah. Well, in general, I found some information on Vice Magazine and Business Insider. According to emergency physician Dr. Robert Glatter of the Lenox Hill Hospital in New York City, sex-related injuries actually occur daily. So something kind of strange happens on the daily.
And you're saying the self-sex, right? Masturbatory style injuries.
Or just, I guess they kind of just grouped it all together. But you'd think that it happens enough in every hospital where the nurse would be a little bit more coy about it. But but a robot hand is a very unique situation. The general reasons that bring people to the hospital, for men, it's because they place things around their penis, usually like rings or something like that, to kind of cut off the circulation, to kind of, give more
maintain erections, continue stimulation.
Yep. And both men and women have been known to insert objects in their you-know-where, and they get lost. So they need someone to go inside and find it. And there are other reports that are a little bit more innocent, like sprains, fractures, concussions, and lacerations. So people masturbate hard. And now we get into some stories.
Story time.
So here's like I said, trigger warning. Just skip this if you don't want to hear anything really nasty. Because the first one's pretty nasty. Actually, all these are pretty nasty.
They're all not good.
Well, there was a 73-year-old man that was shoving batteries into his penis, up his urethra.
Oh, God.
So he was actually having some erectile dysfunction issues. So he was shoving batteries into his urethra. And he went to the hospital. He's alive, at least at the time of the article. And they didn't specify what kind of batteries, but they did say that they were 1 centimeter wide. So that's kind of big. That's pretty to shove up
enough, yeah.
But what brought him to the hospital is that the battery started leaking.
Ooh.
Yep, but at the time of the article, they cleaned him up and he's fine. Another report said that a man masturbated so hard that he ruptured his lung. Another, another separate story of another object being inserted. A man inserted a pencil into his butthole, and then he had anal sex with it still inside of him.
Was it sharpened?
It did not say. You could only imagine. Ugh. A man was masturbating in the forest, and a legless lizard, basically a snake, crawled into his urethra.
That one sounds questionable. It's like,
Like, how did it get in there? It's
yeah.
Like, well, was he not paying attention? Something kind of, yeah.
Maybe he forced it in there or something. I don't know. That's hard to miss. Like, oh, I think something's crawling into my wee-wee. I'll just ignore it. Like, no.
And then it goes on to like a lot more stories of people putting things where they shouldn't be. New York Post, a 54-year-old man was hospitalized for shoving a 4.4-pound metal dumbbell into his anus. A 37-year-old from Indonesia got a 6-foot-long string stuck into his penis after a botched sex game. Lots of random stories involving male urethras, so up the penis, copper wires, plastic tubes, aloe vera, and then one that you kind of heard about from because it happened to a celebrity years ago, but suffocation, autoerotic asphyxiation, and I think that's a good place to end it.
You know, there was one, speaking of shoving stuff up, one I read, it wasn't super interesting, but since most of yours were males, there was one where it said a woman, it wasn't even sexual, it was, a woman came in because she was fighting with her boyfriend and didn't want him to leave, so she shoved his car keys, or it said key, maybe keys, up her vagina, and couldn't get it out, and after the doctor examined her, they established that it probably fell out along the way because it wasn't in there. So, yeah, I guess men and women can do it for different reasons. I don't know. Yeah, I did also see, and I think it was a Reddit forum, so I didn't necessarily bring it up, but somebody was saying that the number of glass objects that are found in rectums is pretty high, and it says, don't do that. If the glass breaks, like, you then have to have an open surgery, and it's very, very bad. So, in fact, I read one where a guy came in and said that his girlfriend was taking his, I guess this is one of the lies, taking his temperature with an anal thermometer, the anal way, and when they pulled that out, it was apparently an aquarium thermometer, so like one of those long ones. But I'm pretty sure those are glass too, so it's like, don't be, yeah, glass, it's a little too fragile for the rectum and things can go wrong. But, okay.
Basically, just stay safe out there.
Stay safe.
Everyone.
The IQ point is stay safe.
If it doesn't seem right, it probably isn't.
And if it's moving or alive, maybe don't shove it up you. Even if you're in the forest.
Yep.
Okay.
But so, I guess to really finish it off, I guess we'll finish this off with a failed IQ point because I mentioned it in the beginning how the nurse, and shout out Vernie Watson, is that her name? She was the nurse in the first episode, so she comes back.
Oh, I forgot to look her up, but awesome guest star appearance of the same nurse.
Yep. When she mentioned that there was no hospital code, I wanted to look at what the other hospital codes are. Like, do they have a discreet way to say, hey, some weird sex thing happened, code this.
Code sex.
But I could not find anything just because every hospital has their own method of coding. So nothing is really that consistent. They do have like some consistencies, like code red is like fire or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
but then code black is like an armed person is in the hospital and they're dangerous. Like, things like that are mostly the same, but for the most part, every hospital has their own method of coding.
Coding the medical emergencies and
Yeah. But none of them specifically dealt with sex stuff or masturbatory.
robot arms.
Yeah. It's a code steal.
It's code still. Code Terminator. So Howard asks for help because the nurse is kind of making fun of him, and she calls. Oh wait, I said that already. She goes over the computer and gets some idea of what's going on and asks if they tried turning it on and off again. Howard says it's more complicated than that, but she pushes a button. It powers off, cycles back on, and lets him go. Howard looks down and says, Winnie the Pooh is out of the honey tree. And Raj says it's time to get some cookies and a Hawaiian punch. So, problem solved.
Yeah. Someone's going to vomit later.
Yeah, exactly. Who it is, nobody knows. It's part of the game. At the apartment, Sheldon says it's been a productive evening. Penny says she didn't have sex with 31 guys. But Sheldon says numbers don't lie. Sheldon is still going to have the kid, and it's going to be a gift to humanity. But Penny finally threatens him and says she will tell his mom if he has a lab baby. He says it's not a threat. His mom has always wanted a grandkid, but she specifies his deeply religious Christian mother wants a test tube baby born out of wedlock. Sheldon freezes and says curses. And now here's we get where Penny's kind of slow on the uptake, that if she had thought of that from the start, she could have saved her whole night. Sheldon throws out there it's not all that late. Maybe she can go out and find number 32. And then he gets a death glare. Sheldon comes inside and Leonard's on the phone and is talking to Howard, and he says, slow down. Wait, what do you mean? It happened again. The end.
You know he had to try it again. It's like, well, if it came off that easily.
It didn't work the first time. Try it again. And we're at the vanity card, and the vanity card is long. So I'll get to it.
I forgot to look up the vanity card.
I almost forgot it, and then I had to look on. It was like an hour before the show. I'm like, oh shit, I gotta add that.
Yeah.
So Chuck Lorre Productions number 291. I didn't go to my 40th high school reunion. I agonized over the decision. Part of me wanted to simply to take a victory lap. Part of me thought that to be most unworthy motivation for traveling across the country in a private jet with a full head of hair. Sorry, my dog's grumbling. With a full head of hair, a 32-inch waistline, and a beautiful woman almost half my age. Part of me wanted to see how my classmates turned out after decades of life. Part of me was simply frightened by the mortality issues implied by decades of life. Part of me did not want to revisit memories of that sad, alienated kid whose best idea for attending the Sadie Hawkins Day dance was sitting on the handball? I got a fuzzy version. There we go. Handball court, swilling Southern comfort, and then blundering into the gym until a teacher threw him out on his ass, after which he threw up on his shoes like a Hawaiian punch. Part of me was simply worn out from work and feared the reunion would culminate with a debilitating Schadenfreude-inducing stroke near the punch bowl. Part of me truly wanted to enjoy the company of people I grew up with. Part of me feared being judged by them, even if the judgment was positive. While it's too late now, the reunion is over. Now there's part of me that has quietly begun to agonize over the 50th, and a part of me that regrets not going to the 40th in case I'm dead by the 50th, and a part of me which is thoroughly exhausted by the part of me that worries and thinks too much. But that part of me writes sitcoms and vanity cards, so the exhausted part of me just has to suck it up. And yet, there's still another part of me that merely watches all of the other parts with tender, paternal amusement. Part of me thinks that's my spiritual part, the loving, non-judgmental, ever-present witness. part of me thinks that if I'm still alive by my 50th, that's part would have a good time at the party. Rereading this card now, part of me thinks I should be heavily medicated. So some existential crisis on high school reunions, and also a lot of punch and throw up. So there you go.
Did you ever go to your high school reunions?
Nope. I don't even know if they have official ones. Like last I heard, they were just having them at like local bars, and I don't know. It's like at a different school now, so it's not going to be the same school or gymnasium, I guess. I'd be afraid that I'd be embarrassed by how many people I don't remember or don't know. A lot of questions there, and also I'd have to fly across the country for like one night. I'm like, I don't know if that's worth it. How about you?
No, I wasn't interested. We did have an official one, and yeah, I just wasn't interested. I know all my other friends went. They said that they had a good time, but I just wasn't interested.
I think I had some friends who just went to their 10th. And they're like, it was fun. There were some people there. It was kind of rainy and cold. And I'm like, oh, okay. So, I don't know. It gives you a reason to get out and get drunk. But if you have a kid, it's kind of hard. I could do that in
the comfort of my own home.
That's what I'm thinking. Why go out?
Yeah. Yeah, when it comes down to it, I'd rather just Netflix and chill.
You're right. I have nothing to prove to anybody.
I'm good. It's not how I want to spend my time. I'd rather just have a glass of wine and watch a rerun.
Or make a podcast.
Yeah. Or look at the Artificial Intelligence Bill of Rights.
Yes.
Well, all right. That's the episode. Let's count some points up.
I am at 104, not like Sheldon, 102, like Sheldon. So a couple on both sides this side, but not, yeah, a couple on both sides. I think I was shocked with the profanity one. I didn't realize Sheldon had that. I guess I'm not surprised he has an issue with profanity. I'm surprised it came up, or it came up in season 4. That hasn't come up before that much.
And I counted 4 IQ points this episode.
Solid.
Yep, it's a good number. Because when I first started this, I think I only had like 1.5. I think you came up with most of them. So yeah, I just didn't come up with a lot. So I'm glad we came through.
And the ones we had didn't have a whole lot of information either. It was like stuff worth checking out or reviewing a little bit, but
yeah.
Or it's just fun butt stuff. I don't know.
Yeah. Butt stuff's always fun.
Yeah. Just not with glass.
Yeah. All right. Well, anything else to add?
I think that's it.
All right. Strong start to season 4.
Yeah.
Thanks again for listening, everyone. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Theoretical Nonsense Pod. Email us at theoreticalnonsencepod@gmail.com and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Thanks for listening.
Thanks.
This was Theoretical Nonsense, the Big Bang Theory watch-along podcast. No PhD required. Our intro and outro music is by Alex Grohl. Thanks for listening.
Piggyback, baby.